Take a look at any ad today from the likes of P&G, Unilever, Idea, Nestle or any other, and you'd wonder if these were consumer product companies or NGOs. Over the last few years, brands galore have adopted the marketing mantra of having a higher purpose, and they've gone all out communicating this to their customers and community at large. But alas, the worst kind of marketing is one when you overpromise and underdeliver. A case in point being the Chennai Floods. The absence of these large brands rolling up their sleeves and coming out to help their community during a severe crisis like this is noteworthy. Only because they've been feeding us all their lofty ideals for a while now. Vijay Ravi finds out why brands abstain from doing their bit, and here we're not talking about free supplies, and was this really a lost opportunity for them to have demonstrated their so-called values?
आइए ये शपथ लें कि अपने मोहल्ले को चमकाएं, हर एक शहर को इंडिया की शान बनाएं।
Creative crafting couldn't possibly get better on indigenous soil. Go beyond product benefits and make lofty claims about change. A stand for society betterment, and by the end of it, you can expect the climax reading a happy ending. But off-reel, when a real conflict strikes the world, why is it that these very brands seldom act what they've scripted? If conflict is the key to connect, then the recent Chennai floods was the perfect medium to stand by your brand claim. A large portion of the city was waterlogged, there were power failures, shortage of supplies, and an overall sense of chaos. Chennai received approximately 540 mm of rain, that's nearly 3 times more than the usual amount of rain in December. The catastrophe was unexpected, and ironically, so was the brand response.
See, if brand is an act of sensitivity, then there was no Chennai crisis. Okay? I think they were completely deaf to the whole thing. In fact, if you were to say that brand is an attempt to define reality, define commodity, define a way of life, then I don't think brands responded to the Chennai crisis.
You know, the key point is this, that brands are ready for marketing, but brands are not ready for care. And when a nation suffers, when a nation goes through something like the Chennai floods, let's say, it's extremely important for brands to be ready.
They've invested tons in visual drapery to set their tall humanitarian claims. But off record, they've ceased to pull off what they stood for. Starting out with an eerie silence followed by doling out freebies, this response was most definitely not in line with their brand positioning. Evidently, more time was spent in conference rooms focusing on imagery than comforting residents. Their brand marketing stands synonymous to that of an NGO, so the expectation obviously was no different. Given the resources they have, these heavyweights could have pinned down the crisis by engaging in more than mere freebie distribution. Nature took its turn, leaving some brands' persona in question. Evidently, there wasn't much alignment between the message brands propagate and their actions at the grassroots level.
If a brand wants to behave like an NGO, it has to think like an NGO. NGOs don't give freebies. They participate with the community. They talk to the community. They listen to the community. They respond to the community.
Particularly because in the last few years, most brands talk about being purpose-driven and having therefore some larger, loftier purpose, So they're not just peddling stuff, but they're actually working to the betterment of humankind in some form or the other. And in line with this, I mean, the real test of it is in a humanitarian crisis. That's when the people are really distressed, where any intervention and meaningful help gets appreciated. So for brands to see this, of course, as a responsibility, but also as a way of demonstrating, all that they've been claiming, I think this is the ideal testing ground.
I think the second thing you got to understand deeply and fundamentally is this involved a new kind of imagination. This needed new inventions. A freebie or a dole is an act of patronage.
One brand that stood out during the crisis with an innovative insight was Ola. The travel service provider recognized the need to reach out and in turn recrafted their services with the novel Ola Boats.
This was more of a crisis situation that needed a very different approach, right? And most of Chennai was waterlogged, and there were a lot of places where obviously cabs just couldn't reach, right? Which was where we experimented, getting other modes of transportation like boats in place. The idea came obviously from a lot of internal debate and discussion on what we can do in Chennai to get mobility going, but more importantly, this was not to look at it from a transportation point of view, but more from a crisis resolution point of view.
At a time of crisis, what people are looking for is not just generic help, but they are looking for specific help. And I think what Ola did is solve a specific problem, a big problem that the residents of the city were facing.
Zomato, on the other hand, faced a predicament during the crisis. Their intention may have been to help, but they decided to float on goodwill rowing on their consumers' muscle. Zomato's marketing tactic to amplify sales during a severe crisis led to its own misfortune.
The whole point is this, that when there is time of real trouble, then help cannot be contingent. You cannot make your help conditional. I mean, you cannot say that if you do X, I will do Y.
A freebie is an insult, but so is a bargain model. You don't bargain. I mean, you might have flea markets after a disaster, but the dignity of bargaining a flea market has is not what Zomato provides.
Another brand that simply could not pass this golden opportunity for disaster marketing was brand Amma. The Chief Minister of the state had stickers of her face stuck onto relief supplies that were being used in Chennai to ensure maximum use of this branding opportunity. More opportunistic than heroic.
I think that's the crassest form of exploitation. I mean, really. I mean, that, when you try and, particularly when, people, it was not as if that was the swiftest of responses or, the government machinery swung into action and everyone, heaved a sigh of relief. That would not be the narrative that unfolded. In a time like that, when you finally get your, and are doing something, and you try and take advantage of it, and you try and, I think that is truly exploitative.
Disaster and marketing are very strange bedfellows. I don't think they must go together.
To be recognized off the counter, you ought to create a strong connection. And going by what we see, creating goodwill has given good riddance to textbook methodologies. But the question that is yet to be answered is the fact that how much of what these very brands script on camera translates into reality.
Normally what we do is, that's what we did in Uttarakhand when there was natural calamity there. But here it was a little different. Government requested us, to help them out. But since they requested us, we had sent about 4 truckloads of biscuits to the collector's office.
One has to actually see to believe the efforts that the team put to restore the outages that had happened in our networks and host of other networks of other players in Chennai. To actually see how much of effort went to restore the network. So that's the first priority and the basic service that we provide to our customers. We also have a service philosophy of happy to help. And I think we took that service philosophy out of our Vodafone stores, where we had volunteers from Vodafone who were actually walking the streets, the affected areas, offering free phone calls, offering free water and light refreshments.
Their answers evidently question their brand claim, making us the consumers believe that these very brands surely know how to tap emotions, but know little to nothing on how to reach out.
This was the perfect plot for storyboards to come to life. If brands had acted with purpose like they claim, they would have found their respective flags soaring high in the consumer's mind. But alas.